So, good evening, one and all. I am Adit Ram Prasad. I have recently completed my 10th boards and now pursuing pre-university. So, I would like to thank the Bolt IoT team for giving me an opportunity to learn and grow. I also thank them for setting this online stage for showcasing my project. I thank all who have directly and indirectly supported me in this endeavor. My skills are in Python, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and C++. Motivation to do this project. I had registered myself for the Bolt IoT and ML training. And this was a starting point for me in this field. The following year, the Innovation Challenge 2 was announced, which gave me the idea of making a simple IoT-based attendance system. Whilst developing this project, I improved upon this concept, which turned out to be more functional. Now, introduction to the project. Coming to the project, though it has a flashy name, Smart Security System, it is a kind of attendance system that has more functionality in it. So, in brief, it detects and stores and displays the data of the activities of any user in a room. So, when anyone wants to unlock a door, they must scan a RFID tag. The tag is verified, and the signal that a particular user has entered is sent to the cloud. A Python program then receives the information that a user has unlocked the door and stores this data in a database. This this data is then taken from a Flask app, and it is displayed in a graphical way in form of a timeline chart. So this is an image of the hardware setup. So here I have used many components in the hardware, which is an Arduino board, RFID sensor, Bolt IoT module, infrared sensor, and a motor to lock and unlock the door, and a motor driver IC.
Project monitor.
Everyone else, please mute yourselves. So here, this is an short image of how the UI looks like. So this is the data is being shown on the web page. So here I have the web page, and this area shows the data of when the users have entered and exited. Here it also has a small date picker that we can request the data of any particular day to be shown. This also shows the live presence of any user in the room. So it updates in live time. So what it does. So basically in the hardware side, it locks or unlocks a door which is leading to a room, and it authenticates the user by scanning an RFID tag. So when the user scans the tag, the data is confirmed that it is the correct person, and it verifies the tag. Once it is verified, it unlocks the door. So after unlocking the door, it also sends the data to the cloud where it is stored in the database. So when it is stored in the database, it is also um, stored with the timestamps of when they have entered or exited. Later, when anyone wants to access this data, it can be accessed through a web page, and that web page, as you have seen, it graphically shows the data. Uses. So this can be used in as an alternative to an attendance system, or it can also be used as a logging method. So it can be used in schools and institutions, companies, banks, and inventories or godowns. I hope my video is visible. So today's plan goes as follows. So first we'll have an introduction and overview about the project. Then we'll be going through a brief code explanation and how the code works. Then we'll be deploying a simple Python app which is running Flask to Heroku. So I have categorized the project into four major divisions. That is the hardware part, the backend which will receive the code from the hardware and saves it in the database. Then I have the front end part that will display the data, and there is the deployment where it will deploy the data and make it fully working in the cloud. This is a simple flowchart that shows how the whole project works. So starting with the hardware, there's the RFID reader. So then when anyone scans a tag, it checks for the UID and a secret password that is present in the tag. So once that is verified, it sends the data to the Arduino board. So the Arduino board checks if it is the correct UID and password. So after that, it will unlock the door. And it also generates a new random password and stores it within itself and also writes it to the RFID tag. So this information regarding the anyone has opened the door is sent via UART to the Bolt IoT module. So this forwards it to the Bolt cloud servers. In the data storage part, there's a Python code that is running on a server. This Python code, it requests the data from the Bolt IoT servers. And once it receives the data that someone has entered, it first converts the data in a proper format. So it will organize it by year, month, day. So it will organize it in a proper format in JSON, and it will store the data in a MongoDB server, a MongoDB database. So when the data is requested to be displayed, a Flask app will get the data from the MongoDB server and it will host a web page. Then in the web page, JavaScript, using JavaScript, I have an app that will graphically show it in a timeline chart. Everybody, could you please mute yourself? Yeah, thank you. So here are the components used. So for the hardware, I have used the Bolt IoT Wi-Fi module, Arduino Uno, a 9-volt power source, infrared sensor, a buzzer, and a DC gate motor. I have also used an RFID reader with a tag to authenticate the users. For the software, I have used Bolt Cloud API, Python, Python packages that are required, and a MongoDB server. So hardware images. Let us have a look at the hardware that I have used. So this is the motor which I have used, and I have mounted it to the lock using regular tape, and I have just used a threaded rod that once the motor turns, it is going to push or push the latch to either side, and it is going to lock or unlock the door. Then I have mounted a infrared sensor. So this sensor tells the Arduino board that if the door is closed or if it is open. So that tells the Arduino board that if it should lock it or unlock the door. So how this works is there is a white infrared emitter. So this emits infrared rays that will go and that goes and reflects off the wall over here. So once it reflects and it gets received by this receiver, we know that the door is closed. But when the door is open, it doesn't reflect back, so we know that the door is open. So this is a simple cover that I made that will reduce interference for the infrared sensor. So in case there is any other source of infrared rays such as sunlight, it is going to block that. The infrared sensor can also be replaced with a reed switch and a magnet on the other side of the door. This is the Bolt IoT Wi-Fi module. This is the motor driver that I am using. So this motor driver can, depending on the signal which it receives from the Arduino board, will drive the motor either clockwise or anti-clockwise. That will respectively unlock or lock the door. This is the Arduino Uno board that I've used. This is the RC522 RFID scanner. So this will scan the tags and it is going to send the data to the Arduino board. So this is how the full setup looks. Do note that the locking mechanism in this demonstration, I have used an DC motor with this contraption with a threaded rod. It can definitely be changed with anything else. A servo motor could be used or a stepper motor. It can also be connected to any solenoid lock. And so if this is being actually used, there are many other alternatives to be used. So this is the image where I'm getting the output in the terminal saying that who has entered and who has exited. So this is the output from the Python program. So those are the hardware images. Now this is the hardware schematic, how the circuit connections are made. Here, starting from the 9-volt power source, it is powering the motor driver IC and the Arduino board. So this power source is powering the Arduino board through the V-in pin. From this, the Arduino board is going to regulate the power and it is going to regulate it to 5 volts. Then the Bolt IoT module is powered by the 5-volt pin. The RFID module and the infrared sensor are powered by the 3.3-volt pin. So here, the motor driver IC is connected to the motor. Then I've used a buzzer. The buzzer is connected to pin number 5. And the Bolt IoT module is connected to the Arduino using UART communication. So the TX of the Arduino is connected to the RX of the Bolt IoT module. The infrared sensor's output, which is this green wire, is connected to pin number 8. So the Arduino is going to receive data from the infrared sensor on pin 8. Then these wires are for the SPI communication between the Arduino board and the RFID sensor. So here, let us have a look at a quick demonstration of the hardware video. So in this video, you see that I was able to go to the other side of the door, and once I close the door, the motor automatically locks itself. So this is the view from inside the door. So how the motor functions, and you can observe how the motor functions and how the infrared sensor sends the data. So now you can observe that on the infrared sensor, the two LEDs are turned on. So one of the LED shows that there is power to the infrared sensor, and the second one shows that the infrared rays are reflecting back. So it knows that the door is closed. Do observe when the door is opened, one of the lights goes off. I hope you are able to see the video clearly. Yeah, anyone can put it in the chat. Okay, just a minute. I'll try to fix the issue. So I hope you are able to see that the infrared sensor, one of the LEDs turned off. And this is the output on the laptop screen, which shows that the person has entered or exited. So here user underscore 3 has entered. So there are few security measures that I have incorporated. So if the RFID tag is unrecognized, it makes a beep and there is no action taken. But as I have already explained, the RFID scanner looks for the UID present in the tag, but it also verifies if the password present in the tag is also correct. So we will have a look at that in depth later. So if the password in the RFID tag is wrong, it makes an alert sound. So let us see a video about that. Yeah. So in this video, I have used an RFID tag, but in that RFID tag, the password is wrong. So it creates a beep sound to indicate that there is the wrong password in it. So once the RFID tag is recognized and the password is correct, the door does unlock, but the user has to open and close the door manually. if the user maybe forgets to do so, it also creates a small beep sound to convey that it is unattended, or the person has to lock the door back. So here I have scanned the tag, but I have not opened the door, so it is unattended. So after a set interval, it is going to make a short beep sound. After that, I have opened the door and I have left it. I haven't closed the door. So after a short interval, again, it is going to make a slightly different, but it makes a beep sound to show that the person has to lock the door, close the door back. So the fourth point is the same. So if the user unlocks the door and leaves it closed, it is going to create a sound, beep sound. And if the user opens the door and leaves it unattended, it's also going to create a sound. So that was the hardware part of the project. Now let us have a look at the software part, more specifically the backend. So how it works is, as I had shown in the previous slide. Let me go to that. So in this slide, the hardware part, the data is sent from the Arduino board to the Bolt IoT module, and there it is sent to the Bolt IoT servers. So here in the backend part, where the Python code takes the data from the server and stores it in the database, we'll have a look at that. So here the data is requested from the Bolt API. So the Python code gets the data regarding who has opened the door. So then it will check if the user, first stage is going to check if it is a new day. So I have also included the code to handle cases when it is a new day or if it is a new month, because the data which I am storing in the database is just not simply dumped into the database. It is organized in the organized properly. So there is year, month, and day. So in that format, it is organized. So there's a database for a year, and there's a column for the month, and there's a document for the day. So it will check if it is a new day. If it is a new day, it will create a new document for the new day and name it the name of the day or the number of the day. So that is how I'm using it. Then it will also check if it is a new month. So if it is a new month, it is going to create a new document. Or if it is a new year, and it will also check if it is a new year. If yes, it is going to create a new database for it. If the new month or new year return no, it is just going to return back. So this is for organizing the data. Then it will check if it gets the data regarding if the person has opened the door. So then it has to check if the user has entered or exited, because in both places the user unlocks the door and then it locks back automatically. So then it checks the previous action by that particular user. So if it is enter, it is obvious that the person is exiting now. And if it is exited the previous time, then the person is entering the room or whatever. So then it checks that, and if it is if the person is entering, it will create a new it'll append the data, and it is also going to include the timestamp to the database. If the person is exiting, it will also update that same document, and it is going to add the time of exit. Yes, now we'll have a look at the front end. So in the front end, this is just a screenshot. I have deployed this app on Heroku. You can check it out in this URL. It is a live demonstration of how it works. So in the top part, as you see here, this is the main graph. So I'm using Google Charts for this. And in this, it shows the name of the user. So in this case, it is just user 0123. 01, user 0, 1, 2, and 3 changed. And here I have just these lines which will represent the start and end. And here these columns, or this line of data, is the amount of time that the person was inside the room. Yeah, so that is in how much time the person was inside the room. So this is follows the same for all the users. Below this, we have a date picker. So this date picker, we can click on any date we want. So we can select the month, year, and here we have a calendar. We can click on the day, and once we click on the day, we can see the data of that particular day. And if we are viewing the data of this of the present day, there is also a table that shows the live presence of the users who are there in the room. So here there is the name of the users and the presence. So it is yes or no. So for the front end, let us have a live demo of how it looks. Yeah. So this is the website that I have hosted on Heroku. Um, so in this, since I didn't have any data to upload, this is it also has a Python program that will automatically randomly generate some data. So if I click on some other day, for example, it is just going to refresh and use a different data set. So here, if I hover on this, it is going to give in-depth explanation on what it is. So here is the name, and then the time, exact time, and the duration. So I can choose any day I want, considering it is present in the database. And in the actual project, I also have a login page so that only users who are authenticated can access this data. So this is the logout button for that. So here we had a look at the basic functionality. I hope it's clear. If anyone has any doubt about basic functionality, you can ask it here about what we have covered up till now. Okay, looks like it's clear to everyone. Let's move on. So these are the features that are also included. So since it is a web page, the data of any day can be requested from anywhere in the world. And the whole thing is ready to be hosted on the cloud. So everything can be hosted on the cloud, even on including the database. And since the data is accessed through the website, anyone can access it from the world, anywhere from the world, considering they have the authentication or the password. So the user authentication that is done through the RFID tag is done with matching the UID and a secret 11-byte, 16-byte randomly generated password. So this Arduino board actually generates a random password, and it stores that password in its memory, and it also writes it to the tag. So next time the tag is scanned, it is going to look for the new password. So the old password is not valid anymore. So this is just a small security feature that I introduced so that it will be immune to basic cloning of tags. Such attacks can be avoided. The hardware can be fully battery powered. Yes, it is. It only requires a one 9-volt power source, so that is not an issue. Yes. Anyone was asking anything? Okay. Let's move on. So the hardware side is portable, and even the software. So it doesn't require a lot of setup. It only requires us to set up a few environment variables with our credentials. Then it will be ready to be hosted. The The user interface of the chart is also very user friendly, and it displays the data in a graphical way. And user activity of any specific day can be accessed. So that is also there. And it is stored in a database in a very organized manner. So there is no problem with that. So now shall we go and have a look at the code, like a code walkthrough, and let's see how the code works. Or shall we have a small interactive session on how to deploy a simple app onto Heroku? I'm running a poll. You can answer yes if you want to if we can have a session on how to deploy an app to Heroku, and no is to go and have a look at the code. Okay, so almost everyone has selected yes. So we can go and have a look at how to deploy a simple app to Heroku. So if you want to follow along, you can follow. The recording will be available. You can follow along later. So the prerequisites are Python, Git, a Heroku account, and Heroku command line interface. So here are the steps to deploy a Flask app on Heroku. So let me pull up a terminal here. I hope it's visible. Is the terminal visible? Would anyone please confirm?
No.
No, okay. Yes. So I hope it's visible now.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So now the steps to deploy and happen Heroku. First, we'll need to have an Heroku account and download the Heroku command line interface and login. So I have the command line interface ready. So it is installed. Then we need to create a directory for the sample project. I have created a directory and have changed my directory into that. So next we'll have to create a virtual environment. So we can do that by running the command python 3 -m with venv space venv. So the first one is the command venv will tell Python to create a virtual environment. And the second venv is just the name of the virtual environment. So we'll run that. and it's done. So we can see there's a directory called venv. So that is our virtual environment. So we can activate it now by running source virtual environment /bin/activate. So now that the virtual environment is activated, we can see this uh, virtual environment in brackets next to the prompt. So now we have to install required dependencies. So I can pip install flask gunicorn. There, it's installed. Now for the actual app, which is app.py, that is a Python app, we can just write this code over here, or I have also hosted it on Heroku. So it can be downloaded from there. So let me just use nano and edit the app.py. So here we can import the Flask module. So here we are importing the Flask module and creating an app. Next, we have to define what happens when someone visits the URL slash. So that is basically the home page. So when someone visits the home page, we run the function index. So we define a function. This function can be called anything, it doesn't matter. So simply we just return the string hello world. Most modern browsers just put this inside the HTML tags. So adding the whole HTML tag in the head and the body and putting this inside a paragraph isn't required. This is enough. So we can save this file and exit. Just to test it, we can actually run this. There's a small mistake. So we have to, from Flask, we have to import Flask. So this is running on my local machine. So it is running on 127.0.0.1 port 5000. So looks like the code is working. So now to push it to Heroku, we need a few files. Mainly the proc file, which basically tells Heroku what to run. So we can create a proc file. It can also be created from the command line by just echoing this string into the proc file. So first we have to define the process type. So the process type is web. So this tells the Heroku servers that it should use a web infrastructure for this. There are also different types of uh, processes like web worker and many other processes. So worker is like a background worker where you can host any Python file that doesn't require web access. So the other file that takes the data from the Bolt IoT and stores it in the MongoDB database, that can be run as a worker. So that, yeah. So now we have to define the process type, that is web, and then the command which we should run. So the command is gunicorn app :app. So what this is so we can see that gunicorn is the command. So this is gunicorn is a server that is that is used to host Flask apps in production. Not only Flask, I think it is also used to host Django apps. So the app :app. So what it is, So we can see that we have a app named app.py. So the first app over here refers to this app.python. The after the colon, the second app is actually this thing. So this is the name of the app which is hosting which is using Flask. So this is basically the object which is using Flask. So this thing is the second app. So if you have renamed it something else, you can change the names here. So once the proc done, so we have to also create a file called requirements.txt. So this will show the requirements or dependencies of our project. So since this is a virtual environment and I've only installed a Flask and Geonicon, I can just use pip freeze. So this will just show all the packages and the versions of the packages. So I can just redirect this to requirements.txt. Yes, so that is done. Now to push it to Heroku, we can push it through Git. I think it also supports Docker containers, but we can stick to Git for now. So I can create a repository running Git init. This is creating an empty Git repository. So now we have to tell Git to add the following files. So we use Git add app.py, the proc file, and requirements.txt. We do not have to include the virtual environment and PyCache files, including the gitignore file that we'll do later. So now we can run git status. And actually we can just include these also in the gitignore file. So we can create a gitignore file. So now I have I have added gitignore file. So now previously it used to show that PyCache and virtual environment are untracked. Now it just ignores those two files and it doesn't show it when I run git status. So now I can next commit the files, running git commit -m to add a message. So now the git repository is ready to be pushed to Heroku. So first we'll have to create a Heroku. We need to create a process in Heroku. So we run Heroku create. So this creates an Heroku app. So running Heroku create actually creates an app with a random name. So if we want something specific, we can say Heroku create and add whatever the name of the app we want. But if we choose an app that is all app name that is already taken, it is going to throw an error. So yeah. So now that the Heroku app is ready, the command Heroku create creates an app on Heroku server, and it also creates a remote local Git repository. So we can see that we're running git remote -v. So this thing gives it creates a new remote and names it Heroku, and it links it to this particular Git repository. So now we can say git push Heroku master. So here we are saying git to push it to the remote named Heroku, and we're going to push the branch master. So if you are using, if your default branch is not master, if it is main, you can change it there. So here the code is being deployed. So this is the URL where it is being hosted. Let me copy this link. Yeah. So when we push it to the remote named Heroku, the Git basically pushes it, and these are the logs. Now the remote is communicating through this, and here we are getting the logs on how the app is being deployed. So here it is building, and then it detects that it is Python. So it detects that it is a Python app. So no Python version was specified. So if we want to specify a particular version, we need to create another file named runtime.txt. So that will basically use the correct specific version of Python. So then it installs the latest version of Python, then it installs pip, then the required dependencies that we had mentioned in requirements.txt. So then it discovers that the process type is web from the proc file. So then it launches the app. So we can navigate to that over here. So this is the app that I hosted right now, and we get the output as expected. Hello world. So does anyone have any doubt regarding deploying apps to Heroku? Yes, someone was trying to speak. Okay, so there are no doubts regarding how to deploy Python apps to Heroku. Let us move on. So in the next section, we just have a quick code walkthrough on how the whole code works. So let us have a look at that. Yeah, so in the code walkthrough, I have divided it into 5 sections. So first is the Arduino sketch. So this is how the Arduino sketch works. Then we are having the Python backend, which takes the data from the Arduino and manipulates it and organizes it in a proper way and stores it in a database. So yeah. Then third, we have the how the Flask app retrieves the data from the database and serves it on a web page, and it uses JavaScript with Google Charts to display it graphically. Then there's a web development part with the data visualization. So this is the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, mostly JavaScript. So then we have the last function, that is the calendar, which we had seen. So this will query the specific data for each day, and it is going to show it in the web page. So let us have a look at that. So this is the Arduino code that I've used. Yeah. So here I'm including the libraries, that is the SPI library and RC522 library, which communicates with the RFID sensor. Yeah. Here I've defined a few pins that are used. So this is creating an RC522 instance. Here is an array where I've set the default passwords. So as I said, there is a password that is stored in the tag. So the default password is this for every tag. So here that is stored. And these are the UIDs of the specific tags. These are unique. So these are the UIDs of the tags that I had. So these will have to be changed. These are a few variables that I have defined for the motor and the tag. So in void setup, I set up the pin and digital write. I start the SPI communication and communicate with the RFID sensor. So I hope my screen is visible. Yeah. So in void loop, so this is the code which will handle the RC522. So once any card is detected, so when someone scans a card, it gets detected here, and here this function just checks if the tag UID matches with any of the previously defined IDs. So once it verifies, it is also once it verifies the UID, it is going to run this function that is going to verify the password. So if that is also verified, it is going to use serial write and send the data to the Bolt IoT module. Once the data is sent, it is going to set a new password to the particular tag, and it is going to unlock the door. In case that the password is wrong, it is going to create this buzzer tone, which is the one we had seen earlier. And if the UID is wrong, it is going to just create a different buzzer tone. And this is a delay in the void loop. So this is going to change the delay, how fast the tags will be scanned. So this is just a function that will verify that if the password is correct. Yes. So it is going to create a read buffer and read the data from the tag, and it is going to just check it if it is matching with any of the previously listed passwords. And this function is going to set a new password. So it is this function. So here in this for loop, it is going to randomly generate a new password. It is going to create a randomly generated new number and convert it into characters. So this sets a new password, and this writes the new password. And just for information, it is being written into block 4. So in block 4, the password is being stored. Then we have the function unlock the door. This is just going to write into the, it is going to send the data to the motor driver. So it uses digital write and sets the pins to the respective values, and it's going to turn the motor. This delay can be adjusted to how fast or slow the motor has to turn, or how long that the system should wait till the person closes the door. Then this function locks the door back. So now we had a look at how the Arduino code works. This is another code that resets the password in the pins. As I said, there is a default password. So in case that the Arduino board is reset by any chance, it is going to forget the previous passwords. So we have to reset the password in the tags. So this just resets the password with the default password. Now going into the second part. How the data is manipulated and organized to be stored in the database. So for this, the Python program is main.py. So let me zoom in here. I hope nobody has any doubts regarding how the Arduino code functions. Okay, thank you. Please mute yourselves. Yeah. So in the Python code, I'm importing a few modules, dependencies. Here I'm setting the environment variables and connecting to the database and setting all the variables required for the database. Then these are some functions that I have defined, and here the main loop comes. So while true, it is going to wait for 5 seconds, and it is going to read the serial data from the Bolt module. So if the value is not equal to 0. So basically, if some value is there, it is going to say go to a function saying tag detected, and it is going to pass that value. So going to this function here, so this is the function that will first it is going to check if it is a new day. If it is a new day, it is going to do the required functions to the database, and it is going to set the new document or new column or database. So that is going to handle the organization of the data. So once a tag is detected, it will basically decide if the person is entering or exiting, and it will go to the respective functions. So if I go to user enter, this is going to set that timestamp. So here it is going to take the time hour and time minute, and it is setting the timestamp in the database. So if the person is exiting, it is going to update that also. If it is a new day, it is going to run this function, which is basically going to create a new document. So in case if any person has entered in day one but hasn't yet exited on the same day, if the person is going to exit maybe on another day, just for example, so this is going to handle that also. So it checks if any person has entered but not yet exited, adds those people into a list, then it creates a new database and then adds them back there. So in the previous day, it is going to consider them as exited by 2400. That is basically the end of the day, and the next day it is going to add them back at 0000. So that is start of the next day. So that is going to be handled by this. Then new month and new year, so this also handles those conditions. So that's it with the Python backend. This is a very brief explanation on how it works, because going in detail would take a lot of time. So now going to the app.python. This app serves the web page. So here I'm as usual importing a few modules, setting the environment variables. So if the person is goes to the home page, they're redirected to either chart or login. So I have included a few security measures. So there is a login page which is going to authenticate if the person is correct with the correct username and password. I also have two users, a normal user and an admin user. So I have created this so that in future I'm actually planning to make that admin users can remotely unlock the door. So that feature is coming soon. So that's why the admin user has to have a different password. So as we had a login page, we do need to have a logout page that will clear all the session data. This is the main slash chart. So here this will it will show the data of the current day by default. If the person requests the data of a particular day by post request, it is going to send that data. So this is just confirms that the person is authenticated. Here it queries the data from the database, this full part. It is going to make some calculations over here. And if it is a post request, it is going to take the data of that particular day. So it is calculating that particular day, and it will return that particular data in the template. So chart.html is the template which I'm using. Else it is going to return the same template with different data. So this is the data which is being passed. But for example, if the person has entered but not yet exited, and we are viewing the page right now, if there is no exit, the data visualization code is not going to work properly. So we just simply add an exit over here to the data. So this will add an exit of the current time. So if the person has entered and is still inside, we will see that the person has exited at the current time that the person is viewing the web page. So that is all with the app.python. This is the environment variables that we have to set, and as we saw here, we are using chart.python. So we have chart under templates. So I also have an login.html. So this is the HTML for the login page. This is the HTML for the chart. So this is all the configuration for the chart, and this is the JavaScript that handles the date picker, and this handles the table that we saw, which shows the presence of anyone in real time. This is the JavaScript that will handle it is going to handle all the data visualization with Google Charts. So this is initializing the Google chart and parsing all the data and converting it in the proper format, and it is going to write the table here. And these are those lines that we had originally seen. And these are just the CSS properties of all the elements. So this was an overview of how the code works. If anyone has any questions or doubts regarding how it works, you can ask it now. All the project resources are available at this link seen here. It is also available over here in this QR code. So you can scan it and it will redirect you to a GitHub gist. So there all the links are provided.